On this episode of the Converse Cowboy, I revisit the last 3 stops of the tour with Trip Townsend, TJ Roberts, and Terry Forrest, pulling some of my favorite quotes from those interviews. In the performance horse world, people who compete at an elite level don't usually climb to the top quickly. Like most achievements in life, it takes years of dedication, a strong work ethic, and the right mindset to stick with the process and grind it out. As a former college athlete, I know this to be true, and I'd add that through it all, you have to genuinely love what you're doing. My passion for horses and my competitive nature makes me hungry for answers. So I've set out to discover the psychology behind success stories living the Western lifestyle, to expand my awareness and apply what I've learned in my own life. This journey of discovery will be uncomfortable for me, but the reward will be unmeasurable. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. Presented by Kerry Kelly Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter. So in this episode, we stop in Earth, Texas to visit with Trip Townsend. And if you watch the episode, you can tell very quickly how humble Trip is, how passionate he is just about the lifestyle, the Western lifestyle and horses and training horses. One thing Trip said that really resonated with me was that he has a no excuses mentality. There's a consistent trend with everybody that I've sat down with on this tour, and most folks that are successful in the horse business, they have that same type of mentality. How can I get it done? They're not going to make excuses. Like Trip mentioned, he doesn't have an indoor arena like a lot of these horse trainers do, and so he's working full time at a feed yard, and he makes the most of what accommodations he has, in his environment. And I think that comes back to a perception. It comes back to how do we reframe the thoughts that we have, you have a choice to, in anything that you do, we always have a choice. And he is definitely making the most of what he has available to him. So I feel the same way as Trip, like a no excuses mentality. So take a listen and see what he has to say.
I think it works both ways. So I don't have the opportunity to do what a lot of guys do. I don't have an indoor barn, and I don't have time to go cut and go down the fence and rain in an indoor barn every day, which that's kind of an advantage. So I have to kind of turn it around and say, okay, well, the one advantage I do have is I can ride that horse and do my work on him every day. So, I'm getting to use him, and he learns to get tired. He learns what it is to work for a living, and then just every opportunity I get, well, then I try to go to the arena and catch up a little bit, so to speak.
So another thing Trip mentioned was, surrounding yourself with the right people. He mentioned going to Ben Baldus's place, and Ben Baldus is a name that's very well known in the working cow horse industry. And I agree with him. It's so important. We can get to a certain level and we think we're doing good. Kind of like the high school football star. He thinks he's great, and then he goes to college, and then he's kind of a nobody. And because you get to see where you're at, and he talks about that with horses. He gets to train at his place by himself a lot, and then he uses the shows to kind of see where he's at, to kind of level up. But I like his attitude in the sense that he's not afraid to ask questions. He leaves his ego at the door. If Trip Townsend even has an ego, I don't think he does. But I think that's when we really start to figure things out by talking about things with those that have either been there and done it, or maybe a peer that we have that goes down the road with us. It's always good to have those people to lean on, to get a different perspective, to view what's happening through a different lens. I know Trip's doing that with his son, Trail. So I think there's levels, there's people that we can teach. And I've said this before, there's people that we teach, there's our peers, and then there's those mentors, those people that we look up to, for advice, those folks that we want to emulate in some way. I think he hit the nail on the head. He said he's never been afraid to ask questions. And that's another thing, really taking the time to figure out, what do I want to know? This is something that I do. If you're not getting the answer you want, figure out what question you need to ask. And if you're not getting those questions answered, figure out how to ask that question in a better way. I know that's something that Trip does, and it was very evident in this clip. So y'all check it out. Take a listen.
I still do it today.
Yeah.
right before the Snaffle Bit for Charity, I stopped at Ben Ballas' house, and we went down the fence, and Ben was like, do you know that when you go buy a cow down the fence, you're looking off in the stars for a second? And I was like, no. He's like, well, you are. And just, I think you have to be open to ask questions and receive I figured out a long time ago, I'm not smart enough to figure it out on my own. I got to have a little help.
Well, I don't think it's that necessarily. I think it's we don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And especially starting something new, I mean, how are you supposed to be aware of it unless you see somebody else do it? Or, I mean, if you can figure some things out on your own, it just may take you a lot longer than just going and asking somebody who's already done it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I'd have my wife video me, and you can figure a lot of stuff out watching yourself. You don't realize what you're doing. I used to come in to do a reining pattern, and man, I thought I was going fast. I thought I had my hat brim turned back. I was going so fast, and you watch it on the video, and you're like, man, what are you doing? You're just barely loping.
Yeah, that's right.
I have only personally started like a handful of horses, but and then definitely on a very amateur level, but it's very cool to start that process, with those horses as 2-year-olds and take them on through the 3-year-old, 4-year-old year, and then go on to show them or ranch on them or rope with them, whatever it is that you're going to do. And so Tripp talks about that and that is something that he really enjoys, going through the process from taking that horse, buying him as a colt, really not knowing what you have, and then kind of figuring it out and dissecting what that horse is about. Is he a show horse? Is he a ranch horse? Is he a cutting horse? Whatever it may be. But those guys at Tripp's level, I mean, they're just that. I mean, they're on another level with what they're looking for. Tripp has the ability to tap into a horse's mind, whereas somebody like me, it takes me a long time to even try to understand that. But then again, I know he talked about it in the interview. It goes back to a feel. I think like with anything, it takes time and consistent time and focused intent. At some point, the compound effect takes over, and it's no different with those horses. Horses are creatures of habit, and so consistency is very important. The way I like to compare it is like the human brain, and the subconscious mind. Like as a 2-year-old, as a colt, like those horses don't know anything. You put a saddle on them and they want to run and buck and kick. And so I think it's a lot the same with our own mind, whenever it is not broke or it's not controlled or it does not have awareness, our minds tend to do the same thing, buck and kick and run in the sense of like ego, reaction, emotions, like that shit just goes out of control, just like a colt. But with consistency and time, and practice, whether it's through meditation or whether it's through journaling, it's no different than putting that 2-year-old in a round pen and teaching that horse exactly what you want. I think that the human brain works the same way, and the key is consistency. And Tripp talks about that. So y'all take a listen and check it out.
I read a quote that I think it was in the Western Horseman that you said, you enjoy the process of buying a yearling, training as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and then wherever it may go, whether you sell it or going to show it. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, that nailed it. I enjoy it. I love to go buy them. I like to go pick them out, and I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've been lucky a few times also. But I love to go pick the colt out, buy him, bring him home. You're excited to ride him. You can't wait to get on him. You get him going a little bit, and then you're using him. And maybe you're riding pins on him, and then the next thing you know, you're taking him outside and you're starting to rope a few outside, and then you go to the arena and you start working a cow on him and loping circles, and before you know it, you're like, well, it's time to go show him, see where we're at. And it's just been a lot of fun to do the start from finish thing with the horse.
So I've seen Tripp show quite a bit, like at the stock show in Fort Worth and at a few other places, some RHA shows. And to hear him say that he gets nervous before a show, it kind of surprised me, because he rides in very stoic, very like he's got the shit under control. So it was interesting to hear him talk about that and be vulnerable about that. But as soon as he rides in the pen, all of that goes away and he's focused on his horse. And what the job is that he has to do.
And then when I get to the show, man, I'm a super nervous person. So I fight nerves real bad, but I've learned that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if you can channel your nervous energy in the right direction and be super focused, and once you step in that show pen, for me, I'm pretty lucky. Once I step in that gate, like, it goes away.
Really?
Like then I'm just focused and I'm thinking about getting my horse shown. But until I step in that gate, I'm a nervous wreck sometimes. But
so how do you do that? How do you channel that nervous energy?
man, I don't know. I breathe, I visualize, all of those things. You know, tell yourself, hey, I can do this. Don't let the negative get in the way, because it does. If you allow those negative thoughts to get in there, they affect you when you show. So try to get rid of those. Try to take Bill Smith one time. I keep going back to Bill Smith, but I was fixing to ride in the pen at Abilene at the RHA finals, and I guess he could tell I was a nervous wreck, and he goes, "Hey man, breathe." And I just kind of looked at him, grinned. He's like, "No, breathe." And so, like, he actually made me right there take some deep breaths, and I still do it to this day. I make myself breathe a little bit before I go in.
I think it's important, because no matter how much success you have, success is not linear. You don't say, "I only go in the snaffle bit," and you go in the snaffle bit. Maybe for Trip Townsend, but other people, it's not like that. So I know your first year, you show up to the snaffle bit. You did not win the snaffle bit the first year, but the second year you did. So, and I just use that as an example. I'd like to hear from you maybe some challenges that you've had to overcome to get to where you're at today, to get to the reputation that Trip Townsend has today as a horseman.
I didn't expect anything. I wasn't looking for glory or fame, or I just enjoyed the horse. I had a competitive nature. I wanted to compete. Got my butt kicked a whole lot. Just made you want to come home and try harder. And I don't know. It's just something I've always wanted to do. You know, I went to the snaffle bit the first year, and I knew I didn't have a good enough horse. But it was the first year for it to be in Fort Worth, and I kind of fooled myself. I was like, well, maybe he's good enough, you know. And so I took him down there, and sure enough, he wasn't. And so that just made me want to try harder. But once again, I had no big expectations. I was like, well, I think I got a little better horse this year. I'm gonna go back down there and try it one more time, and hope I don't embarrass myself as bad as I did last year. But it just kind of worked out. I've never been one to set goals and say, okay, I'm going the snaffle bit, and I'm gonna try to win the limited open. I just want to go see where I measure up, kind of see where my horse is at, and see how we compare to everyone else. And man, there was so many horses down there last year that were capable of beating me. You got to be a little bit lucky, and it just kind of worked out for me. Drew a great cow in the finals, and it just worked, you know. I didn't know it was going to work. It just did.
Yeah.
No one was more surprised than me, you know. So, and man, I don't know, that makes it even more special, kind of. You're like, wow, man, we just had a pretty good run, you know. And so, I don't know, may not ever do it again, but we did it once.
So leaving Earth, Texas, we head over to Paducah, Texas to visit with TJ Roberts over at the Tongue River Ranch. Just to sit down, and it was really cool. TJ showed us, if you watched the episode, you got to see some of the B-roll and the footage from the ranch, and it was really cool. They took their time and really got to see their whole broodmare band and some yearlings and some 3-year-olds. So very grateful that we got to see that in that country. It's just beautiful out there. But one thing that I thought was cool is how small this cowboy community is, you know, like and when I say that, like, when we were at the Dusty Burson interview, I think Tripp was calling him, and then when we were at Tripp's, I think TJ was calling Tripp. So it's a very small world, and what's cool is that those guys all get along. They're competitive, but they reach out to each other whenever they need help. And it's just like it's like a redeemer in humanity, you know, that people are still that genuine and just really want to help each other out.
I've really tried to get my horses broker like some of these other guys. Like you see Trip, even the Burleson boys, or even some of these other cowboys, or even like your trainers, the good professional trainers. You know, shoot, you look, their horses are 3.5 years old, them things are going wow. You know, to where mine, I've always put them on the back burner. I've been kind of the more of the old school way for 4 or 5. I think they're good. Pick them up, go with them, and they, you know, they're stronger.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes their mind's better, and I ain't got to worry about crippling them. Yeah, they're more mature. So, but I've tried to get better, and Tripp's done very good with what he's done. I mean, for what he's done in RCHA and progressing with him being, you know, 88 years old or something. Trip does a good job. And he's proved to people, too, that you don't have to be young to start in that deal. You know, he started RHAA. Man, he's done good. He's improved. He's went to that next level, you know, and showed 2 years in NRCHA and do what he does. Yeah. Well, you know, like him doing that, I'm like, you know, I need to start mashing on my horses a little more. So I would say probably the last year or two, I've actually started trying to mash on my 2-year-olds just a little bit more. I don't try to do them every day, but I might pick one out. I got 15 to 20 horses in my string, and I might pick that 1, 2, or 3-year-old out that I think might be special, and I've tried to get to where I ride him all the time, even during the works, you know, whether your spring works or fall works, or, man, there's just always something goes on at the ranch. So sometimes you're like, my gosh, it's 10 o'clock at night, but you know what? You have to stop, and you better go down there and ride him at 10 o'clock at night, or you better ride him at 3 o'clock in the morning if you're going to be braining calves all day.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot to be said about training and staying on top of your horses and trying to stay in the game, because there's a lot of really good cowboys, good horsemen out there.
Going to these shows, you know, I've been at a number of these where TJ's won top horse, and for any cowboy that's doing the ranch rodeo scene, like, that is the most prestigious thing, because yes, it shows like they have a really cool horse and is an athlete and can do a number of things, but it's a reflection on your horsemanship, and especially those that have taken them from 2-year-olds and taken them all the way, you know, to a ranch rodeo. It just, though, I know those guys have a lot of pride in it. It's something I've never done. I can't speak like I know what that feels like because I've never been there and done that. But I ride horses, and I know that shit's not easy. And I can definitely see why he takes a lot of pride, just as with every cowboy that has ever won one of those awards, you know. And so take a listen as he shares what it means to him.
Mike, I'd probably say the top horse award is a prestigious award to any cowboy that puts a lot on his horses, and I mean that by like putting a lot of pride and a lot of work in his horses, and he loves his horses. You know, your horse is part of you, and you love your horse. You love your horse, you love your job, and it takes a lot of work to get them horses to that level. And every cowboy likes to have, you know, the top horse. They like riding good horses. That's what we're out there for. We love to chase cows. We love to cow punch. We love to go do that kind of stuff. But you like riding good horses. And the rodeos that we go to, you know, when you go to the rodeos, and there's always a lot of good cowboys there. There's a lot of good horses there. And so when you go to one of them rodeos and you take your good horse to town and they judge him, and you win top horse, it's worth a lot. You know, to me, it feels like you've done your part with your horse. You're doing your job. People like your horses, and you know, it's a deal that I think everybody enjoys to get, and I think if you're a horseman and you love your horses and you like what you do, and that happens, and you get that award, it's worth a lot. It means you're doing your part.
So one thing that TJ talks about, and it's very, very apparent, you know, just from being around him and seeing him. I mean, he's got a broken leg, and he's still out there trying to go do work, you know, and get around. And it's something that I think is across the board. You know, if you're living the Western lifestyle, you're not afraid to work. And that's something that he wants to instill in his kids, you know, and it's like the things that he does in his day to day is an example. Like he's not just telling them to go work and do these things for the sake of it. It's like teaches discipline, you know, and through consistency every single day, getting up early, and whether it's working horses or feeding or whatever it may be, those kids, anytime you're around children of those people like living the Western lifestyle, they will have respect. And I can speak for TJ's kids, you know, Blaine and Brazos. I mean, they're some of the most well-respected kids I've ever been around. And so to hear him say that's the legacy that he wants to leave, I think it just speaks to who he is and, you know, what his core values are.
You know, as much as anything I want my boys to learn to do is to respect themselves, to respect me, but to respect themselves and what they're doing and to do the best they can. That's what I want them to learn from me as a dad. And it's just like my daughter, the same way. She's a working son of a gun. My kids know how to work. I feel like I'm doing my part because they're not lazy. Mm-hmm. They respect people. If you respect yourself, you respect other people. You respect other people, you have good morals. You know, that's something my dad taught me and my mom.
So no matter what you do, I think it's so important, and that's the big part of this show, is to understand people's why. You know, why do you get up and do what you do? And it may be a generic question, but I'm genuinely curious to know, why do you do what you do? I think it's important to really understand that, and something that I have taken an inward look and asked myself the same thing, you know, about the things that I do. And so, again, it goes back to work for TJ. But what I really like to hear him say was that he knows he can do better, you know? And so that's the thing. Like, it's like, yes, I'm doing my best today, but I know I can do better. It's not a judgmental statement in any way, because you're trying to do your best, but in the back of your mind, you know you can do better. And so that's what continues to push him. And this is, again, just my perspective of the interview and what I took from it. But that really resonated with me, and I thought it was cool for him to talk about.
A lot of the stuff that's probably behind what I do and probably a lot of my drive is going to go back to work. And it's going to go back to, I know how to work. I know how to physical labor. If you work, you can press forward. You know, if things get bad, you're going to work to be better. Mm-hmm. And I've always worked to try to do better. You know, if I was okay today, let's be better tomorrow. If my horse is okay today, let's make him better tomorrow. You know, but why what I do is probably because I love what I do. I love the atmosphere of a cowboy and what it stands for. Mm-hmm. I like the ranching end of it. I like the people in the ranching end of it. I like the heritage of it. There's history in it, and you can't take away history. I love history. This stuff's been going back for years, and it's the history of what we do. Mm-hmm. So I respect what we do, and I'm going to work at what we do. And that's probably how I move forward. Yeah. I mean, not every day did I cowboy, no. My heart was always there? Most of the time. Yeah. I went through a part where I was burned out, but it was always there. But I love it, I respect it, and I want to be around people that respect it and respect life. Yeah. And this is history.
So next stop on the tour was Warrico, Oklahoma, with Stewart Ranch and Miss Terry Forrest. Somebody that I've said it before, like, it's somebody that I feel like I'm a better person for having crossed paths with Terry Forrest, and I have so much respect for her and what she's done and what she's built over there, the Stewart Ranch. From the ranch itself, from the horses that they raised to her 2 children that she raised as a single mother, she was as accommodating as she could be and really toured us through the ranch. And so it really made sense as she started talking about her why, it really made sense to see, at least get a glimpse into what she had done for decades to get to where she's at, to do the things that she has done. I think that's why it's so important to know your why, because with running a ranch, like I said, it's not easy, especially as a single mother. There's a number of variables, the weather, the market. It's tough. It's a tough business. And so to do it at the level she's doing it at, for as long as she has done it, and with the amount of respect that everybody in that industry has for her, I think is very commendable. So take a listen as Terry talks a little bit about why she does what she does.
I love what I do. Absolutely love it. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm committed to what I do. And my commitment comes from, I believe we are just stewards of what we have. I understand our names on the gate out there, but we're stewards for a very short period of time. And I believe God's given me the chance to feed a great deal of people. I want to be the best we can be. I want to take care of this country the best I can take care of it. I want to leave it in a very good position. We have a lot of weather challenges to deal with that I can't control. So I don't know if I'll ever get to leave it the way I would really like to, but we work at it. We work at it all the time. What drives me is to try to be the best I can be for others, for this country, for God. I mean, I think He's using me to feed people. And I think there's some of us that we are blessed to get to do that. But we also have a big responsibility to take care of the country, to take care of the livestock, to take care of the people. We want to be involved in this community. It's not about us. It's about a whole bigger picture. And we have kind of branched off with the hunting and the horses, for instance, and that's been a part of this ranch, but we've tried to capitalize on diversity, and we have to increase revenue. And this is a tough business, very tough. It is just about the time you think you're getting along pretty good and it's raining when it's supposed to be, here it comes along and holy moly, how are we going to get through this? So it's very humbling, very. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody in this business ever is too prideful, because trust me, you won't be for very long. Something will knock the wind out of your sails, it will. But we are now even starting another part of this. So I think what drives me is opportunities and how we get through the challenges. And just because I think sometimes there's more opportunity in bad times, hard times, difficult times, than there are when times are good. Because you start thinking out of the box, and you start thinking, how can we make something better, and what can we do to keep ourselves afloat, and how do we bring in another generation, and can we do those things?
So sitting down with different people, there's certain questions that I like to ask to each one of them, and so one question that I like to bring up is, what advice, hypothetically speaking, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I don't know. I've had some, I don't know that I would say a lot different, because if I hadn't gone through the experiences that I have gone through, I wouldn't be what I have done and what I have been through, good, bad, or indifferent. It's made me what I am today. If that's a good thing, then all those experiences were good. Whether they seemed like it at the time or not, and I can trust you, they did not. But that was part of my journey. And I can't be that smart. I can't go back and do that, because none of us can. Yeah. So had it all changed, I might not be here. Mm-hmm. Had I made a different choice, I may be appraising real estate in Utah. I mean, I had to go to school in Utah, Salt Lake City. That's why I said that. I had to go to a class up there. But I think everything happened to lead me to where I am today. And I think the fact that I never gave up on the dream that this is what I wanted to do, whether my daddy wanted me to do it or not, was immaterial. And we got into some battles. I don't like that, but both of us learned out of it. And so, it seemed bad at the time. But had that not happened and we both evolved through it, it may have been, maybe I wouldn't have appreciated where I am today. Maybe, I don't know, I don't have a good answer other than the fact that I think you have to go through those things to appreciate what you have. And
I agree.
So I thought Terry's answer was interesting. I haven't heard that yet, but I totally agree with her in the sense that as we go through things in life, we may want to change them. You know, we may not understand why things happen. And I've talked a lot about this lately. Like, nothing is good or bad. You know, really, it's not, because 5 years from now, we may look back and deem that as good. So when she said, I wouldn't change anything because I may not be where I am now, like, that's what those things had to happen to make me the person that I am today. And so, again, totally agree with her. Like, every challenge that may come up, every struggle that may come up, that is an opportunity. The way I see it, like, that's an opportunity to build character, to build personality, to change your perception, to reframe our mind, to find opportunities. And again, I have a growth mindset, so I'm looking for opportunities to grow, and I see all of those things. I'm consciously aware of it. I'm human, so I feel the feels, like the shit comes up, the negativity comes up with the challenges and struggles, but when my awareness kicks in, it's like, okay, now let me find the gratitude. Now where's the good? And so I totally agree with what she said, and I think everything happens as it's supposed to. That may be woo-woo to a lot of people, and that's fine, but I honestly do. And since I've taken on the mindset of life is happening for me, not to me, I'm able to look at those things that come up, and no matter what it is, I don't care. Like, somebody breaks up with you, if you have a death in the family, like, whatever you deem as tragic, like, when you zoom out 30,000 feet and look back, most of the time it's not that bad. And so I was really impressed with that answer, and it just further validated my respect that I have for her and what she's been able to do, you know. And so I had to ask the question, like, how in the hell have you been able to do this? You know, because most people aren't able to accomplish the things that she has done, you know. And again, this just comes from the respect that I have for her. And so I didn't know how else to articulate it or ask other than just, how have you done it?
I am too cotton-picking hard-headed not to.
And that's a good point, because you are a very sweet lady, but I know underneath that sweetness there's this layer of toughness, right?
I'm not really sure. I just was not going to let anybody tell me I can't. And I don't mean it that way. But I've never seen myself in a gender role, first and foremost. This was not about me being a female. If I can't do the job, I don't need to be in it, period. Male, female, it does not matter. I grew up where it wasn't okay for me to be as good as you. Being a male, I'd be better than. No way. I mean, it wasn't going to work, because average or mediocre or just as good as somebody, you were a girl. I don't mean that I'm not taking, it was a different time, and that's okay. I don't want to take it out of context, but I knew I had to be better then. I mean, I knew I had to work harder. I had to prove myself, and I had to earn your respect. Because if I didn't have the respect of the men I worked with, I was going nowhere. So I was bound and determined I could outwork anybody. I don't know if I could or couldn't, but I darn sure tried. And I knew I had some big footsteps to fill in. I knew the men that had been president of the Oklahoma Cattlemen's before I was there, and I mean, I still to this day don't even put myself in their league. So for me, I was willing to go the extra mile if that's what it took. And I hope it was okay, but I just, I knew I couldn't stumble. There was no place for that. And so I worked really, really hard to make myself as knowledgeable and at least willing to do something. Maybe I wasn't as good as somebody. I mean, I maybe can't rope as good as Robert or whatever it was. And I can darn sure fix fence, but maybe I hope you don't have to come back and redo it. But I was willing to do all that. I mean, I can clean stalls, I can cook, I can do whatever it takes, and I was never going to be the days that the ice was coming down and, well, it'd be really nice to sit by the fire. We've got a bunch of yearlings in. I'm going with whoever goes. It's my job to be there. If nobody else does it, it is my job to be there. And I hope I've always been the kind of person that, the weather's really bad. Why don't you go do this today? And I'm going to sit by the fire. I don't want to be that person. And hopefully that I think it's also, my kids feel that way. I mean, Christmas Day, everybody left and we cleaned stalls and fed horses. We've done that. I just use that as an example, but we have felt like this is our home and our commitment, and we have to be willing to go the extra mile. And so maybe that's how.
So guys, that wraps our tour in Texas. I had a blast doing it. I learned a lot, I grew a lot, and that's what really this whole thing's about. It's about the personal development for me. Overcoming ego, overcoming that negative chatter that comes up inside my head, and picking the brains of people that I respect, and having the opportunity to sit down with those people. I'm just grateful for their time and for their wisdom. So we've got some more shows coming up. Corb Lund interview will be coming out in a couple of days. So we'll be in Fort Worth next week, December the 7th through the 14th, doing more interviews down at the Schaefer store. Definitely come by, check out the store, check out the stockyards. It's going to be an interesting year. They've got the NFR in town this year. There's the Cutting Horse Futurities going on. And Cowboy Christmas is right there at Will Rogers. So it's going to be a lot of stuff going on, going to be action-packed, and I'm really looking forward to getting over there. So if you have time, come by, say hey at the Schaefer store. So until next time, stay grateful, and the journey is the destination.